I put all my best what-ifs that I think that are good. And how you guys can tell when they change to a different what-if is when they say the name of the video. What if Demon Slayer had a happier ending? I wanted to make this video because I've seen a lot of people in my comments wishing that Demon Slayer had a happy ending. And while I already have other videos on my channel where I've made alternate endings where more characters survive, people still want to see an even better version, one where everything works out perfectly. So today, I'm challenging myself. How can I create a truly happy ending for Demon Slayer? The catch is, I can't reuse any of my previous what-ifs. So no, what if Yoriichi was there? No, what if Kokushibo helped Tanjiro? None of that. This has to be a brand new scenario that leads to a happy ending. So let's get right into it. Right at the beginning of the story, Tanjiro goes to sell coal and leaves his family behind. On his way, the old man warns him about the dangers of demons in the mountains and convinces him to stay the night. When Tanjiro returns the next morning, he finds his family slaughtered, just like in the original timeline. The only survivor is Nezuko. Tanjiro takes Nezuko, and then Giyu Tomioka shows up. That whole scene plays out just like the original. From there, Tanjiro trains under Sakonji Urokodaki, the former water Hashira, preparing for the final selection. Everything up to that point unfolds exactly the same as in the original timeline. After the final selection, Tanjiro's journey plays out basically the same all through season 1. But things really start to change once we reach the Mugan train arc. For a true happy ending, the most important thing here is that Rengoku survives. And to make that happen, we need backup on the train. We have two options. Send in a stronger Hashira who could actually handle Upper Moon 3, Akaza. That would mean someone like Giyu, Sanemi, or Gyome. Or send another Hashira alongside Rengoku so he isn't fighting alone. I think the second option works best. So for this what if, we'll send Gyome Himejima, the strongest Hashira, to join Rengoku on the Mugan train. When the train battle begins, everyone falls asleep from Enmu's Blood Demon arc, but Nezuko wakes them up. From here, things play out differently. Instead of Zenitsu and Nezuko trying to protect the passengers with Rengoku, we've now got Gyome and Rengoku holding the line. With those two together, they keep the entire train safe, while Tanjiro, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Nezuko head straight for Enmu, Lower Moon 1. That fight goes much smoother. The four of them cut through Enmu way faster, though the train still derails since his body has fused into it. And then, just like in the original, Akaza shows up. But here's the difference. This time, he takes things seriously from the very start, because Gyome, the strongest Hashira, is standing right there beside Rengoku. So instead of Rengoku fighting alone, we get Gyome and Rengoku teaming up against Upper Moon 3. With Upper Moon 3, Akaza, fighting seriously from the very beginning. The battle becomes extremely dangerous for both Rengoku and Gyome. Any slip-up could mean instant death because Akaza wouldn't hesitate to take advantage of an opening. The fight drags on until sunrise. Once Akaza senses the sun approaching, he retreats into the woods. Even with Gyome present, I don't think they'd be able to finish him off. Akaza is simply too fast and too strong. Some might argue that Gyome could stop him, but realistically, even he doesn't have the power to kill Akaza outright. Not in this situation. In the original timeline, Rengoku nearly held Akaza long enough for the sun to burn him. But the key difference here is that Akaza wouldn't risk stalling or toying around when Gyome is standing right beside Rengoku. Instead, he'd play it safe, avoid being pinned down, and escape before sunrise. So in this version, Akaza lives and retreats. Meanwhile, Rengoku and Gyome return to the Demon Slayer Corps and report everything that happened in their battle with Upper Moon 3. From here, the story shifts into the Entertainment District arc. We're going to keep the Entertainment District arc basically the same. Even if we saved Tengen's arm, even if he awakened the Demon Slayer mark, I still think he would retire. A lot of people in the comments say the same thing, because his wives made it clear that once they defeated an Upper Moon, he should leave the Demon Slayer Corps behind and live peacefully with them. Personally, I think Tengen might have come back for the very last battle if things had played out differently, but for this timeline, we'll leave it as is. So everything in the Entertainment District happens the same way. Tengen loses an arm, he's poisoned, but Nezuko heals him. The fight ends, just like in the original, and Tengen retires from the Corps. So in the next two arcs, we basically keep everything happy. Nobody dies, the story moves forward smoothly, and all the Hashira are still alive, even Rengoku in this timeline. The Swordsmith Village arc plays out almost the same as the original. Mitsuri and Muichiro still survive, and both of them awaken their Demon Slayer marks, giving the Corps a huge power-up. Then we move into the Hashira training arc. Of course, nobody dies here either. This arc is all about the Hashira pushing themselves beyond their limits and preparing for the final battles. Now the real challenge comes in the Infinity Castle castle arc. This is where we need to carefully hold everything together to make that perfect ending. We don't have Tengen anymore, since he's retired, but we do have Rengoku, who's been training for months. By this point, Rengoku is stronger than ever, and in this timeline, he even awakens his Demon Slayer mark. The goal here is simple, but tough. Make sure Shinobu survives her encounter with Doma, keep Genya alive, keep Muichiro alive, and finally, in the last battle, we need to ensure that most of the Hashira make it through. That's the foundation for creating the perfect happy ending. So hopefully, I don't forget any Hashira this time. I know in some of my past videos, I've left a few out by mistake. Let's break it down, fight by fight. Upper Moon 3, Akaza. In this timeline, everyone survives. Originally, Giyu fought Akaza alongside Tanjiro, but I think we can swap him out here. Instead, we'll put Rengoku in Akaza's fight. Here's why. Rengoku already faced Akaza in the Mugan Train arc and held his ground really well. That role fits him perfectly. So now we have Rengoku and Tanjiro versus Akaza. Tanjiro still unlocks his transparent world / selfless state, and just like in the original, Akaza ultimately brings about his own end. This way, Akaza is defeated, and both Rengoku and Tanjiro survive. Upper Moon 2, Doma, will send in Giyu Tomioka alongside Shinobu. This also works really well since the two of them share some chemistry in the story. On top of that, we'll keep the original characters who fought Doma, Inosuke and Kanao. With this team, Shinobu doesn't need to sacrifice herself. Here's why. Shinobu's poison continues to slow Doma down. Giyu is the third strongest Hashira, and with water breathing and his 11th form, Dead Calm, he's able to hold Doma back defensively. Inosuke adds unpredictable, reckless attacks that keep Doma pressured. Kanao's flower breathing and her enhanced eye technique give her deadly precision in battle. Shinobu once stated that to kill Doma, you'd need the equivalent of 3 Hashira-level fighters working together, and with this lineup, that requirement is easily met. Giyu and Shinobu are both Hashira, while Inosuke and Kanao together are strong enough to count as a third. So in this scenario, Doma is defeated and none of them die. Now comes the really tough one. Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo. So this time, I've got a solid idea for the Upper Moon 1 fight. In the original story, Muichiro was separated in the Infinity Castle and ended up facing Kokushibo first, while Genya was left watching helplessly as Muichiro nearly died. But in this timeline, things play out differently. When Muichiro is pulled into Kokushibo's room, Gyomei reacts faster and goes with him instead of being delayed. Now, Muichiro and Gyomei are together right from the start. This makes a huge difference. Gyomei and Muichiro can cover each other and survive longer. With both of them pressing Kokushibo, Genya doesn't take the same life-threatening damage he did originally, since Kokushibo has his hands full with 2 Hashira-level fighters. Later, Sanemi arrives and joins the battle. At that point, it's essentially over for Kokushibo. The combined pressure from Gyomei, Muichiro, Sanemi, and Genya is too much, even for him. Kokushibo still has that emotional moment of recognizing his brother Yorichi's ideals before the end, but instead of wiping out half the team, he falls after an exhausting battle. All of them, Gyomei, Muichiro, Sanemi, and Genya, are bloodied and battered, but alive. It's still an incredibly brutal fight, but with these changes, nobody dies here. So in this version, the Ubuyashiki family head still sends the Hashira and Tanjiro's group after Muzan, but to keep everyone alive and in better condition, I think the smartest move would be for them to group up first instead of rushing in one by one like in the original story. Now, let's go over the side fights real quick. Zenitsu versus Kaigaku still happens, and Zenitsu wins with his insanely fast thunder-breathing techniques. For Nakime, the Biwa demon, Mitsuri and Obanai team up and completely destroy her once they realize she's been manipulated by Yushiro. Here's where things change. Muzan realizes Nakime has been compromised and personally kills her. With Nakime dead, the Infinity Castle collapses, but this time, everyone is ejected before they can be trapped or crushed inside. That means all the Hashira survive the castle's collapse. Tanjiro isn't badly injured at this point either, so he can still fight at full strength. Kanao is also still in good shape, and the Hashira as a whole are much healthier going into the final battle. So now, instead of entering the fight against Muzan half dead and exhausted, the Demon Slayer Corps is at near full strength, with all of the Hashira alive and in fighting condition. I love Demon Slayer so much, and after watching interviews and reading facts about it, you can really see how the creator built the story. She was always willing to kill off characters because she wanted fans to feel something deep. That's why so many characters died, and why the story hits as hard as it does. She even thought about killing Inosuke and Zenitsu early on, but in this timeline, we're making sure everyone survives. So moving into the final battle / sunrise countdown arc, things change drastically. Tanjiro is on the front lines, fighting with the transparent world and sun breathing, but this time, he has help from Shinobu, Muichiro, Rengoku, and all the other Hashira still alive. With Tamayo's poison already weakening Muzan, the fight goes much more smoothly. They still get blasted back, and some people lose limbs, just like Giyu in the original, but this time, nobody dies. With every Hashira still standing, plus Tanjiro never never backing down. Muzan is overwhelmed much quicker. He doesn't even get the chance to turn Tanjiro into the Demon King, because the Slayers drag him into the sunlight and finish the fight before he can act. Now, here's the tricky part. The Demon Slayer Mark Curse. Normally, those who awaken it die by age 25. That would mean Guillaume and others would soon perish. But for this happy ending, we'll go with one of the fan theories out there. The curse of the mark is lifted once Muzan is defeated. It's a stretch, but it's the only way to keep everyone alive. So in this timeline, Obanai and Mitsuri live and continue their love story. Shinobu survives, and her sister can rest proudly in heaven, knowing she lived a full life. She and Giyu finally get the love story fans always wanted to see. Tanjiro and Kanao become a couple. Zenitsu and Nezuko also end up together. Inosuke and Aoi Kanzaki, that's her name, finally get their moment as well. Muichiro lives past 14. His bloodline continues, and so does Shinobu's bloodline, which would have ended in the original timeline. All the Hashira, Sanemi, Obanai, Shinobu, Tengen, Giyu, Gyomei, Rengoku, Mitsuri, and Muichiro survive this version of the story. And that's the happiest ending I could come up with for Demon Slayer, without making massive changes that break the story completely. What if Tanjiro activated the Demon Slayer? Mark in episode 1, so let's jump right into this video. We're starting from the very beginning. Tanjiro heads out to sell coal, leaving his family behind for the night. On his way back, he's stopped by an old man who warns him that demons roam the mountains at night, convincing him to stay over until morning. When Tanjiro finally returns home, tragedy strikes. His entire family has been massacred. The only survivor is his sister, Nezuko, but she's been turned into a demon. As Tanjiro struggles to process this, Giyu Tomioka appears. Just like in the original timeline, they clash, but this time, everything is different. In this version of the story, Tanjiro is born with the Demon Slayer mark, the same kind his father had, and similar to Yoriichi's. This isn't the kind of mark that shortens your lifespan to 25. Instead, it's a hereditary mark, granting him all the enhanced abilities, the transparent world, boosted strength, speed, and heightened instincts right from the start. So, even though Tanjiro was born with the Demon Slayer mark, this is still weak Tanjiro. At this point, he doesn't know any breathing styles. The only things he's ever done are chopping wood and hauling coal. He has no real combat experience, so when he first clashes with Giyu, he still loses. But Giyu notices something strange. Tanjiro is clearly stronger than an ordinary person, even though he has no training. He doesn't know it yet, but the Demon Slayer mark is giving him enhanced strength and instincts. Still, nobody understands what it really means at this point. From there, the story moves on like the original. Giyu sends him to train under Sakonji Urokodaki, the former water Hashira. Tanjiro learns water breathing, but here's the catch. Because of his black blade and Demon Slayer mark, water breathing is a terrible fit for him. After Tanjiro finishes his water breathing training, he heads to the final selection. Because of his Demon Slayer mark, he already has access to the transparent world and all its benefits, so he cuts through the demons fairly easily. Next comes the arc where Muzan is first revealed, and let me just clear this up. People always ask what happens when Tanjiro meets Muzan for the first time. Honestly, nothing really changes here. The only difference is that, with the transparent world, Tanjiro can now see Muzan's 5 hearts and everything inside him. But that doesn't matter in this moment. Tanjiro still can't fight him. There are too many people around, and it would be impossible to battle Muzan in that crowded place. If we tried to make him fight right there, it'd just turn into a bad what-if. So the story continues the same way as the original timeline. Now let's get into the Drum Demon arc. I don't know if that's the exact name, but this is the part where we meet Inosuke and Zenitsu. Tanjiro ends up fighting the Drum Demon, but since he already has the Demon Slayer mark, the fight goes by much easier. With his boosted speed, strength, and the transparent world, Tanjiro takes him down without too much struggle. After that, we move forward into the mountain with Rui, the Lower Moon 5. Now Zenitsu stays back because he's scared, but later he ends up facing the Spider Demon. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Inosuke run ahead and help the other Demon Slayers defeat the Mother Demon. After that comes the Dad Demon. This time, they have a way better chance. Tanjiro is able to see right through him with the Demon Slayer mark and the transparent world, realizing that the dad isn't really a true demon. He's controlled by Rui's threads. That means cutting off his head won't kill him. With that knowledge, they finish the fight much quicker, since the dad demon's raw power doesn't work on Tanjiro the same way. After that, Inosuke heads off on his own, and they split up. Tanjiro ends up facing Rui alongside Nezuko, setting the stage for their battle against the Lower Moon 5. This time, Tanjiro is much stronger, so Rui actually takes him more seriously. At first, Rui is still confident and doesn't see him as much of a threat, but that quickly changes once Tanjiro begins using Hinokami Kagura, sun breathing. With the combination of sun breathing and the Demon Slayer mark, Rui is completely overwhelmed. Tanjiro dominates the fight, and unlike the original timeline, Rui is killed directly by Tanjiro's blade. When Giyu arrives, he doesn't need to step in or save him. Lower Moon 5 is already defeated, and honestly, the reason why the original creator probably had Giyu land that kill was because defeating a lower moon demon is often seen as one of the requirements to become a Hashira. But here, it doesn't matter. Even though Tanjiro has the power and the mark, he's too humble to accept the position. He admits he's still not strong enough to be a Hashira, and to be fair, he's really not there yet. Now let's get into the Hashira meeting. The big question is, why is Tanjiro traveling with a demon? This time, when they hold him down, Sanemi tries to stab Nezuko, but that never happens. Instead, Sanemi underestimates Tanjiro, and Tanjiro lands more than just a headbutt. They actually start fighting until the master shows up. The master explains that Nezuko is under our ranks with Giyu Tomioka, the former water Hashira. Urokodaki also stands up for them, so Nezuko is officially accepted into their ranks. Now, let's move on to the Mugan train arc with Rengoku, and now they go on the Mugan train with Zenitsu, Inosuke, Nezuko, and Rengoku. They all board together. They fall asleep from Enmu's trap, wake up again, and then Rengoku starts covering the train with Zenitsu and Nezuko. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Inosuke head to the front of the train to defeat Lower Moon 1, Enmu. This time, it's way easier for them to find his neck, because Tanjiro has the transparent whirl. He can see through everything and pinpoint the exact spot for him and Inosuke to slice. They defeat Enmu, and Tanjiro doesn't get stabbed. After that, they try to help Rengoku, but Rengoku tells them to stop because he'd only slow them down. Sadly, Rengoku still dies to Akaza. They return home, mourn his death, train again, and then move on to the Entertainment District arc with Tengen Uzui. So, they go into the Entertainment District arc, and everything basically happens the same until Tanjiro fights Daki. This time, Tanjiro actually manages to cut off her head, but then the real problem shows up. Gyutaro, the true Upper Moon 6. Tengen jumps in to help Tanjiro, while Inosuke and Zenitsu take on Daki. Since Tanjiro already has the Demon Slayer mark, Tengen can awaken his in the middle of the fight too. With that boost, the battle goes way easier for them. Tengen never loses his arm this time, and they finish the fight much faster. Now, some people might say Tengen would still retire after this battle, but think about it. Would he really retire when the final fight with Muzan is still coming? Still, since a lot of people want it that way, let's just say he does retire after the Entertainment District arc and goes to live with his wives. But he does come back later for the Hashira training arc. Now we got the Swordsmith Village arc. Tanjiro goes there because his sword is chipped, and he hasn't gotten a new one in a month. After waking up from his coma, he heads to the village and meets Mitsuri and Muichiro. After all that, Upper Moon 4 shows up and the fighting begins. Muichiro gets blasted away to go fight Upper Moon 5. This time, Tanjiro is way stronger since he has the Demon Slayer mark. Nezuko gives him the red blade, and now he's more trained with Hinokami Kagura, which is sun breathing. With all that, he blows through the clones of Upper Moon 4 and goes straight for the main body. Meanwhile, Muichiro's fight plays out basically the same as the anime. He unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, defeats Upper Moon 5, and wins. Afterward, he gives Tanjiro his new sword to finish the battle. Then, Mitsuri arrives at the village to help Tanjiro. She holds off one of the fake bodies, while Tanjiro goes for the real one. From here, it basically happens the same as the original timeline, only Tanjiro is way stronger and can see everything with the transparent world. Now we move into the Hashira training arc. Now the Hashira training arc goes totally different, because Tanjiro already knows the Demon Slayer mark. At this point, we got 3 people who really understand it. 2 Hashira and 1 retired Hashira. Mitsuri doesn't really know much about it, but Mushiro knows absolutely everything. How to control your temperature, how to awaken it, how emotions tie into it, and all that. Then we got Tengen. He adds his own input, especially since Tanjiro has been living with the Demon Slayer mark since birth. So instead of just training, Tanjiro starts teaching people how to unlock it too. One of his main goals here is figuring out how to evolve his mark into something greater, stretching across his forehead, something even stronger. And then there's Gyome. Gyome is actually a huge help, because his training focuses on channeling emotions into the Demon Slayer mark. That balance between Muichiro's technical mastery, Tengen's experience, and Gyome's emotional strength gives the core the best possible foundation before the final battle. But now, Muzan makes his move. He wipes out the Ubuyashiki family, and then activates his trap, pulling everyone into the Infinity Castle. Now we move into the Infinity Castle arc. And now this time, all the fights are basically the same, but Tanjiro and Giyu versus Akaza, Upper Moon 3 Doma versus Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke Kokushibo versus Gyome, Genya, Muichiro, and Sanemi. So let's go over Tanjiro and Giyu versus Akaza. And now, this fight goes super fast since Tanjiro has the transparent world and the selfless state. He uses that to kill Akaza way sooner than in the original timeline, with Giyu holding him off until Tanjiro lands the final blow. Tanjiro slices off Akaza's head, and Akaza accepts his fate, reuniting with his wife as they go to hell together. Now, this is where the timeline changes. In the original, the Ubuyashiki head of the family said that they could have sent Tanjiro and Giyu to the Upper Moon 1 battle, but thought they had done enough already. This time though, Muichiro is just starting his fight with Upper Moon 1, so Tanjiro Tanjiro and Giyu actually show up since they finish Akaza much faster. They step in to help Muichiro, and then Gyomei and Genya arrive as well, with all of them fighting together. This time, Muichiro and Genya survive. The battle is still brutal, but it goes smoother, and Tanjiro helps bring closure to Kokushibo, making him realize he was wrong all along, and that he should have been proud of his younger brother. So, with the Upper Moon 1 fight done, now it's time to move on to Upper Moon 2, Doma. Now, the fight with Doma basically ends the same since no one is there to help Shinobu. She still dies, and Kanao and Inosuke finish Doma off using her poison. Next are the side battles. Zenitsu goes up against Kaigaku and defeats him, just like before. Then we have Nakime, the Biwa woman, who fights against Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro, the kind demon who paints portraits of Tamayo. Together they defeat Nakime and take control of the Infinity Castle, at least until Muzan kills her. With all of that done, we now move into the Sundown Countdown arc. Let's get into it. Now with Tanjiro using the Demon Slayer mark, knowing more about sun breathing, the transparent world, and the selfless state, he actually destroys Muzan in this timeline. After all the Hashira get caught in that huge blast, Tanjiro and Obanai start fighting him and manage to defeat him a little faster than in the original timeline, but not by much. Most of the Hashira die, and the only ones who survive are Muichiro, Giyu, and Sanemi. After the battle, the rest of the Hashira finally perish. The only real happy ending is that Muichiro gets to live longer past age 25, even though he still has the Demon Slayer mark. In the end, they all live happily. And what if Tanjiro had a Bankai? So, you guys voted for this in my post, so make sure to check out the post if you guys want to vote for my next video. And I gotta explain a couple things before we even start, because I want to make sure this Bankai system actually fits inside Demon Slayer without breaking the story completely. So first off, in Bleach, to even get a Shikai, or a Bankai, you need a Zanpakuto, a sword that has its own spirit or personality inside it. Demon Slayer obviously doesn't have that. So what we're going to do here is basically turn a Nichiren blade into a Zanpakuto style weapon, but without an actual spirit inside of it. Instead, the awakening is going to come from the user's breathing style and emotions. So here's how we're setting it up. Shikai equals breathing style. Activation. You guys already know that in Demon Slayer, the flames, water, wind, lightning, all that stuff isn't really real. It's just visual effects. But with Shikai, I want all of that to become real elemental attacks. So, water breathing will actually make real water slice out. Flame breathing will make real fire. Wind will create actual wind pressure. Sun breathing will create the real flames and heat it's supposed to. Basically, Shikai equals turning all breathing style visuals into real elemental attacks that function like Bleach's Shikai abilities. Bankai equals extreme survival / near-death awakening. For the Bankai, we're doing it Demon Slayer style. Instead of inner spirits like in Bleach, we're gonna base it on life or death moments. Extreme emotional stress moments, similar to unlocking a Demon Slayer mark. So anytime Tanjiro hits a breaking point, mentally or physically, that's when his Bankai would awaken. So let's get right into this. Tanjiro goes to sell coal, and on his way back up the mountain, the old man tells him, "There's demons roaming around at night. Stay with me." So Tanjiro stays there overnight, comes back in the morning, and finds his whole family dead, except Nezuko, who's turning into a demon. Tanjiro tries to get help, and ends up running into Giyu. They fight, and after that, Giyu tells him to go train under Urokodaki and learn water breathing. Now Tanjiro never really knew about demon slayers or anything like that, so seeing Urokodaki actually produce real water with his breathing style shocks him. And I'll give you guys a quick backstory here. Some people say the demon slayer mark awakened because of Muzan's curse. So demon slayers get this kind of side effect where they can produce elemental attacks through their Nichiren blade, but they can only do it through the blade. They can't shoot flames or water out of their hands. So Tanjiro trains in water breathing, does the boulder training, all of that. Then comes final selection. Everything basically happens the same as the original timeline, just with Tanjiro constantly producing real water with his forms. After final selection, everything continues the same, all the way until Rui's Mountain. He already met Zenitsu and Inosuke in the Drum Demon Mansion, so now Inosuke and Tanjiro go up the mountain while Zenitsu stays behind, scared like usual. Tanjiro and Inosuke help the other demon slayers, take down the two demons, and then Tanjiro gets blasted into Rui's area. Nezuko is being tortured. Tanjiro tries to fight Rui, and this is where he unlocks sun breathing, the hottest and strongest flame in the series. Sun breathing produces hotter flames than flame breathing itself, so when you combine it with Nezuko's blood demon art, they're able to burn through Rui's tricks. They cut off Rui's head, but Rui's cheap trick with the string neck still happens, so Giyu finishes him off. Everything plays out the same after that. Then we go to the Hashira meeting. They all question why Tanjiro is traveling with a demon, but Urokodaki and Giyu you vouch for him, so he gets let go. Now we move to the Mugan train arc, where they go hoping Rengoku might know something. Everything plays out the same, until Upper Moon 3 appears. This is where things change. Tanjiro is in a high-stress situation, and I still haven't fully talked about how the Bankai works, but both Tanjiro and Rengoku unlock their Bankai during this moment. It's the same idea as Bleach. You unlock Bankai in extreme pressure or life or death situations. Their Bankai works like this. They get a full layer of armor, kind of like Asta's anti-magic armor in Black Clover, but themed around their element. They can use the real breathing style with their Bankai and fully control their elemental attacks. So for example, Rengoku can literally control his Flame Tiger instead of just swinging it. With Bankai active, one Hashira becomes strong enough to take on an Upper Moon alone. Akaza gets pushed back hard, and there are only two real ways to kill Akaza. Selfless state, overwhelming raw power. This time, Tanjiro and Rengoku have so much raw power, thanks to sun breathing and flame breathing in Bankai form, that Akaza gets overwhelmed. Tanjiro doesn't have the 13th form yet, because he hasn't seen Yorichi's memories, so he can't fully master sun breathing, but he still has Bankai armor and elemental control, which is already insane. Rengoku has Bankai Flame Tiger, Tanjiro has Bankai Sun armor. Together, they completely destroy Akaza. Inosuke doesn't unlock Bankai here, and Zenitsu is knocked out because of the train, so it's all Tanjiro and Rengoku. And in this timeline, they defeat Akaza. With Rengoku surviving this time, Tanjiro doesn't go into that sad era like the original timeline. Nobody is depressed, so they all start working out right away. And since almost none of them are hurt like before, they train, hunt demons, and get way stronger. Tanjiro starts working on his Bankai, but he still can't unlock his full elemental form yet. Rengoku has his Flame Tiger, Water Breathing has the Water Dragon, but Tanjiro's Sun Dragon won't show up until the final battle when he gets Yorichi's memories. So right now, he's mainly working on controlling his breathing style, improving his attacks, and figuring out how to use Bankai longer and make it stronger. Inosuke is obviously jealous that Tanjiro unlocked his Bankai first. Zenitsu doesn't really care. Now we move into the Entertainment District arc. Dialogue stays the same. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke go with Tengen instead of the three girls. They dress up as girls, start investigating, and eventually find Daki. I'm starting at the moment where Tanjiro's eyes start bleeding versus Daki, while Tengen, Inosuke, and Zenitsu are fighting the belt half of Daki underground. Since Tanjiro has Bankai and real elemental flames, Daki's belts can't handle the heat at all. She's never seen sun-breathing flames before, and these are the hottest flames she's ever touched. Her belts literally start burning, letting Tanjiro get closer. This time, he actually cuts off her head solo without needing help. That triggers Gyutaro showing up early, and Tanjiro is still way too weak for Gyutaro in base form, so he immediately activates his Bankai, gets his armor, and tries to fight back. Even then, he still gets pushed around until Tengen, Zenitsu, and Inosuke return. Inosuke and Zenitsu take Daki. Tengen and Tanjiro fight Gyutaro. Tengen activates his Bankai too, which is super cool, but he doesn't have a big signature animal or attack like the others. His is mainly sound wave armor, mixed with air blasts similar to wind breathing, because sound breathing is based off thunder breathing, which is based off wind breathing. So Tengen uses these shockwaves and sound pressure to keep Gyutaro back, while his armor absorbs damage. This time, the Demon Slayers are almost on par with Upper Moons, because they have Shikai and Bankai, so the gap isn't as crazy as the original. Tengen does not lose an arm since he has armor now. He and Tanjiro rush Gyutaro and kill him quicker. Now the Daki fight. Inosuke still gets stabbed through the chest with the sickle, but instead of dying, the shock awakens his Bankai. Zenitsu, trapped under the rubble, unlocks his Bankai too. Zenitsu gets lightning armor. He doesn't have an animal spirit, since thunder breathing doesn't branch like that. Inosuke does get an animal, because he invented beast breathing himself, learning it from growing up with boars. His Bankai animal is a boar, and instead of flames or lightning, his boar spirit is like a wind beast hybrid, fast air pressure attacks, and wild movement. Together, Inosuke and Zenitsu kill Daki the same way as the original timeline, just faster and cleaner. I hope this doesn't sound too far-fetched, but I'm trying to keep it fun and hype. Nezuko still heals Tengen, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, and instead of Tanjiro being in a 3-month coma, he instantly goes right back into training since he never got skewered by Gyutaro's sickle thanks to his Bankai armor and Tengen jumping in. Now, with all that done, Tanjiro trains a lot on his Bankai. He's working on timing it better, making the armor stronger, and controlling the elemental flames. But his new swords aren't ready yet, so he heads to the Swordsmith Village, and we start the Swordsmith Village arc. Most of the dialogue stays the same. He meets Mitsuri, meets Muichiro, meets Genya, all that. I'm going to jump right to the part where Muichiro clamps Tanjiro's nose to wake him him up. Then Upper Moon 4 attacks. This time, the fight starts basically the same, except Tanjiro's flame output is actually dangerous to Hantengu's clones because sun-breathing flames are the hottest flames in the series. Muichiro still gets blasted away like the original because he's not activating his Bankai right away. He's pacing himself, so he still gets caught and launched out of the building. So Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya fight the emotion clones. Tanjiro's flames destroy a ton of their wood attacks instantly, but since the clones regenerate fast, it's still a rough fight. Nezuko and Genya help exactly like before. Now, Muichiro vs Gyoko, Upper Moon 5, goes way differently, because in this timeline, mist breathing actually creates mist. Muichiro's whole fighting style becomes way stronger. He's basically invisible in the mist, dodging fish demons, blocking Gyoko's attacks, but his sword still sucks. That crappy blade slows him down. Because of that, he never gets trapped in the water prison this time. He stays out of it, and then when he gets the new blade from Kosoka Namori, that's when he unlocks his Demon Slayer mark. With Bankai and actual mist being produced, he destroys Gyoko even faster than before. Meanwhile, we go back to Tanjiro versus Upper Moon 4's clones. Genya, Nezuko, and Tanjiro head for the main body same as the original. Mitsuri arrives and instantly pops her Bankai because she sees the massive fused emotion demon. Love breathing doesn't have a spirit animal, but as a flame breathing derivative, it has heat properties, so her Bankai armor glows with hot pink flame energy. With that 10 times stat boost, she pushes the emotion demon way harder than the original timeline. While Mitsuri holds off the big form clone, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya chase down the real Hantengu. Everything plays out the same. Tanjiro loses his sword. Muichiro throws his new one. It lands in front of Tanjiro. He grabs it, channels all his breathing into it, and finally cuts off the main body's head, killing Upper Moon 4. Nezuko still survives the sunlight and becomes immune. And now that the Swordsmith Village arc is done, we enter the Hashira training arc. Let's get right into that. Now, after learning what the Demon Slayer mark really is, and how it basically curses them to die at age 25, a lot of the Hashira start thinking differently. People like Sanemi and Obanai would want the mark because they're battle maniacs, but with Bankai and Shikai now in the story, the mark honestly isn't needed as much anymore. Bankai gives them a bigger boost than the mark ever could, and Shikai already lets them use real elements. So instead, the Hashira start focusing on training more people to reach Shikai level. Because if you think about it, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tanjiro are prodigies. They're rare. Most Demon Slayers can't even produce full elemental breathing effects. Remember that random Demon Slayer from Rui's Mountain that used water breathing? He barely made a sprinkle of water. That's the normal level for Demon Slayers. Most of them can't produce a full water dragon or wind attacks like Gyu or Sanemi can. So the Hashira's new goal is helping more Demon Slayers unlock Shikai, since Bankai is still too advanced. So the training arc goes basically the same. Tanjiro trains with his Bankai, Zenitsu trains with his lightning armor Bankai, and Inosuke trains with his boar-based Bankai. They all get way stronger. Then we get to the moment Muzan attacks the Ubuyashiki family, and the explosion sends everyone into the Infinity Castle. Now let's go over the matchups. Most of the stuff in the Infinity Castle plays out the same. But remember, we killed off Akaza early on, so Akaza isn't there anymore. That means we can split up Gyu and Tanjiro this time. Tanjiro is going to the Upper Moon 1 fight, and Gyu goes to the Upper Moon 2 fight to help Shinobu. And since Demon Slayers now have Bankai, like I said earlier, one Hashira with Bankai is basically equal to an upper rank demon. They're way stronger than in the original timeline. So let me break down all the fights quickly. Side battles first, Kaigaku versus Zenitsu. This fight plays out almost exactly the same, but since Kaigaku was a demon slayer, he has demon abilities too. Still, Zenitsu popping his Bankai makes the fight one-sided. He definitely can't handle Zenitsu's Bankai now. Zenitsu kills him clean, barely gets hurt. Yushiro, Mitsuri, and Obanai versus Nakime. Same outcome as original. Yushiro takes over Nakime, Mitsuri and Obanai help him control the Infinity Castle. Nothing major changes there. Upper Moon 2, Doma versus Gyu, Rengoku, Shinobu, Kanao, Inosuke, Shinobu is insanely stronger now with Bankai. With the 10 times stat boost, she's strong enough to actually cut off demon heads, so she carries 2 blades in this timeline. The moment she meets Doma, she instantly activates her Bankai and goes all in. When Gyu joins, it's basically over. In the original timeline, Shinobu said it takes 3 Hashira minimum to beat Doma. Here, you have Bankai Gyu Bankai, Shinobu Bankai Kanao Bankai Inosuke. Doma isn't escaping. He gets absolutely overwhelmed. This fight is a stomp compared to the original. Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo versus Tanjiro. Gyomei, Sanemi, Muichiro, Genya. Now the interesting one. Because demons can also use Bankai in this AU, Kokushibo has a Bankai too. On top of Blood Demon Art Crescent Blades, he's stacked. But the big difference is, Tanjiro is here, and so is everyone else with Bankai activated. Muichiro doesn't die here, because with his armor-style Bankai, Kokushibo can't pierce his body like in canon. Tanjiro's Bankai plus sun breathing gives Kokushibo huge problems. Gyomei's Bankai gives him raw power, far past his original self. Sanemi popping Bankai makes him even faster and deadlier. And Genya still eats Kokushibo's flesh to gain his Blood Demon Art bullets. All 5 of them together overwhelm Kokushibo. His head gets cut off just like usual. He sees his brother's memories, regrets everything, and dies peacefully. Aftermath. Before sunrise countdown, Muzan realizes Yushiro has taken control of Infinity Castle. So Muzan kills Nakime like in canon, and Yushiro evacuates all Demon Slayers out of the castle for the final battle in the Sunrise Countdown arc. So, instead of Tanjiro being half dead at the start of the Sunrise Countdown arc, like in the original timeline, he's actually in perfect shape here. And the same goes for all the Hashira. Muichiro survived, Shinobu survived, Genya survived. Everyone is alive going into the final battle, and they all have their Bankai ready. Now this fight is completely different, because Muzan is getting absolutely overwhelmed. Every Hashira has Bankai and their full breathing styles activated, so Muzan is basically getting jumped by an entire squad of upper rank level fighters. And when you add in the drug that slows him down and weakens him, Muzan starts losing more and more ground. Every time Muzan tries going for a kill, their Bankai armor blocks his attacks. He can't slice their limbs off. He can't instantly kill anybody. Even that massive explosion he used in the original timeline, it barely phases anyone here, because they're all fully armored up with Bankai. Tanjiro during all this starts getting his Yoriichi flashbacks, and now that he's finally strong enough, he figures out the real secret behind sun breathing, the true 13th form. With that, Tanjiro can finally control the full Fire Sun Dragon, and he fully awakens his complete Bankai form. With the Hashira holding Muzan down, and Tanjiro mastering the Sun Dragon, they push Muzan all the way back. They drag him out into the sunlight, and Tanjiro finishes him off for good. And this timeline actually ends with a real happy ending. Shinobu and Giyu get together, and Shinobu survives. Muichiro lives past 14, and his bloodline continues. Mitsuri and Obanai both survive and end up together. Tanjiro and Kanao start their own family, and because so many of them didn't rely on the Demon Slayer mark, most of them survive past 25 instead of dying young. So, yeah. What if Tanjiro had half cold, half hot? Now, if you guys like My Hero Academia content, let me know down below. I'll make more and post it on my main channel. If you want straight MHA content, check out my second channel, shameless plug. But let's get into it. Tanjiro is born with the half cold, half hot quirk, just like Todoroki. He goes out to sell charcoal like usual, and when he comes back, the old man tells him demons are roaming and makes him stay the night. Tanjiro could technically get home faster using his ice, but that would stop the story right there, so he stays. When he returns the next morning, he finds his entire family massacred, with Nezuko being the only survivor. He grabs Nezuko and rushes to find help. He's way faster than normal thanks to his ice movement. That's when Giyu shows up. Tanjiro attacks with ice and fire, but Giyu dodges everything and immediately realizes something is very wrong. He knocks Tanjiro out and tells him to go to Urokodaki for training. Urokodaki sees Tanjiro's quirk and is completely weirded out. Tanjiro explains he's had it since birth and his family always thought it was normal. Urokodaki still teaches him water breathing, but he encourages Tanjiro to mainly use his ice for movement and control, since his fire isn't stable yet. So Tanjiro focuses more on ice than flames early on. At final selection, Tanjiro absolutely dominates. His flames aren't hot enough yet to fully incinerate demons, but his ice is busted. He moves faster by skating on ice, freezes demons in place, and finishes them easily. Against the hand demon, he freezes its arms completely and slices its head off. Final selection is effortless. After that, everything mostly follows the original timeline. He retrieves Nezuko, defeats the swamp demon, defeats the drum demon, and meets Inosuke and Zenitsu. Inosuke doesn't stand much of a chance against Tanjiro. Tanjiro can freeze him instantly or burn him, which just motivates Inosuke to get stronger. Then we reach Rui's mountain, where the biggest changes happen. Tanjiro can burn Rui's webs with fire, but he has to be careful not to hurt other demon slayers. The mother demon is dealt with the same way. When they fight the father demon, Tanjiro freezes it completely so it can't move, letting them deal with it later. Tanjiro uses his ice mobility to move across the mountain way faster and finds Nezuko quickly. When he fights fights Rui, he can use fire to force Rui into using his strongest webs right away. Even then, Tanjiro can overwhelm him by raising the heat and mixing in ice attacks. Tanjiro still ends up unlocking sun breathing, because water breathing alone isn't enough to kill Rui, but this time, he's not injured or exhausted. He cuts Rui's head off cleanly, without Giyu needing to step in. Now we get to the Hashira meeting. This time, the biggest issue isn't Nezuko, it's Tanjiro's quirk. The Hashira are more confused by his half-cold, half-hot power than a demon traveling with a human. They test to see if it's a blood demon art and confirm it isn't. When things get tense, Tanjiro can burn through restraints or freeze anyone who gets too close. Ubuyashiki, Giyu, and Urokodaki vouch for him, so Tanjiro and Nezuko are allowed to stay. And now, we move into the Mugan Train arc. So, everything basically happens the same in the Mugan Train arc. They all fall under Enmu's dream trap. Tanjiro and Inosuke go to fight Lower Moon 1, Enmu, while Rengoku, Nezuko, and Zenitsu protect the train. When the train derails, Tanjiro uses his ice to soften the impact, but he still gets stabbed. That part doesn't change much. And yeah, this timeline is still sad. Rengoku still dies. Tanjiro really can't do anything here. If he tries to fire off a huge ice attack, he risks freezing Rengoku along with Akaza. Same thing with fire. He doesn't want to hurt Rengoku even more. On top of that, Tanjiro just isn't strong enough yet to keep up with Akaza, so Rengoku still dies the same way. After that, Tanjiro goes back to training. He starts developing a new ice move called Glacier, similar to Todoroki's move from the sports festival in My Hero Academia. It's basically a massive ice output technique. He wants to learn Flashfire Fist, but he can't fully use it yet. Before the Entertainment District arc, Tanjiro goes on more missions. He works on regulating his body temperature using half cold, half hot, which lets him raise his heat output safely. His flames become way hotter, and he develops a weaker version of Flashfire Fist. It's not full power, but it's more focused, condensed flames, higher heat, short bursts instead of wide blasts. Now we get into the Entertainment District arc. They dress up as girls and go looking for Daki. I'm skipping straight to the part where Tanjiro is one-on-one with Daki, and his eyes turn red. Tengen, Zenitsu, and Inosuke are fighting the other half of Daki, the Belt Demon. This time, Daki is way easier for Tanjiro. Using Glacier, he can freeze her attacks completely. He traps her in ice, makes sure her head isn't frozen, and cuts it off clean. That's when Gyutaro breaks out of the ice, and just like in the original, he's insanely destructive. He immediately flattens most of the Entertainment District. Tanjiro gets blasted back, but he throws up an ice wall in time so the damage isn't fatal. Tengen realizes what's happening and goes straight to fight Gyutaro. Zenitsu and Inosuke focus on Daki, while Tanjiro is thrown back and has to rush to rejoin the fight. Once Tanjiro gets back with Tengen, he can only do the bare minimum at first. Since he's been focusing so much on his half-cold, half-hot abilities, he hasn't trained his sword skills and sun breathing as much. So in pure combat with a blade, he's a little weaker than before. That said, he still has sun breathing. He's still strong on his own, and he uses his ice to support himself. When one of Tengen's wives gets caught, Tanjiro shoots up using his ice, grabs her, and makes sure she's safe. When Tanjiro is fighting Daki alongside Zenitsu and Inosuke, Tengen still gets his arm cut off and has to stop his heart. Gyutaro doesn't trap everyone under the rubble this time because that already happened earlier. Zenitsu and Inosuke keep fighting Daki, while Tanjiro has to deal with Gyutaro. Once Tengen is out of the way, Tanjiro starts using more of his power, throwing massive amounts of ice and pushing his fire to the hottest output he can manage, even going beyond his limits. When Tengen's arm is severed, Tanjiro uses his fire to cauterize the wound, closing it so Tengen doesn't bleed out. Tanjiro buys time until Tengen finally gets back up, which surprises Tanjiro, and they start fighting Gyutaro together again, with Tanjiro's ice constantly slowing Gyutaro down, and Tanjiro himself getting weaker from how much power he's outputting. The fight turns into a pure endurance battle. Tanjiro pushes past his limits with his sword skills, unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, and together they kill Gyutaro. This time, Tanjiro does not get the sickle through his mouth. Zenitsu and Inosuke aren't buried under rubble. Inosuke isn't half dead, and they defeat Daki much more easily. After all that, Tanjiro goes back to training. So Tanjiro is not in a 3-month coma like before, after the Entertainment District arc. Because of that, he immediately starts working on Flashfire Fist, pushing more output into it. As he goes on more missions, he finally reaches the point where he can incinerate a demon on his own. At the same time, he gains more ice output and way better control over his ice. He also works heavily on regulating his body temperature, and he eventually gets that down perfectly. That's when he figures out a new technique, Phosphor. This is the move Todoroki tried to master for months in My Hero Academia. It circulates cold and heat through the entire body at the same time. Fire no longer burns him, ice no longer freezes him, and his body stays in equilibrium. Tanjiro has a weaker version of this. It's not fully complete yet, but it's close. He also develops another move called Hell Spider, where fire forms around his fingertips and spreads out like burning webs. It's similar to the technique in endeavor uses. After that, Tanjiro keeps training for a couple of months and goes on more missions to improve his swordsmanship. Since he focused more on his quirk early on, his sword skills are weaker in this timeline, and his blade is actually pretty damaged, so he still needs to go to the swordsmith village to get a new sword. We'll skip most of the dialogue there. So after meeting Mitsuri, Muichiro, training with the battle doll, and meeting Genya, everyone is pretty surprised by Tanjiro's quirk and how strong it is. I'm going to skip straight to the part where Muichiro clamps Tanjiro's nose and Upper Moon 4 shows up. Muichiro still gets blasted away by the wind emotion demon because nobody knew that attack was coming. After that, the emotion clones split into 4 once Genya and Nezuko jump in to help. Tanjiro realizes he can't fight all 4 at once, and neither can anyone else. So instead, he starts freezing them and taking them on one by one. This causes a lot of destruction. Houses get destroyed, and Nezuko does not end up trapped under the rubble this time. Tanjiro constantly pushes them back, using his new incinerating fire, flash fire fist, and hell spider to keep distance, while also using ice to slow and trap them. Even though the clones keep breaking out because they're upper moons, Tanjiro pressures them so hard that they merge into the wind emotion clone much earlier to protect the main body. While Genya and Nezuko hold back the main emotion clone, Tanjiro burns through the forest and bushes to search for the real body. Mitsuri arrives, saves the village chief, and helps Tanjiro, Genya, and Nezuko hold back the main emotion clone together. Meanwhile, Muichiro fights Upper Moon 5, Gyoko. Everything there happens the same. The water prison, the new sword, and Muichiro killing Gyoko with his Demon Slayer mark. Muichiro then brings Tanjiro the sword and throws it to him. Tanjiro boosts himself with ice, reaches the main body, and kills Upper Moon 4. Some people might say Tanjiro could have just used ice to protect Nezuko from the sunlight, but that's one of the key moments of the arc. So, let's say Tanjiro never thought of that. And now we move into the Hashira training arc. So, Tanjiro focuses on making sure all of his abilities are up to par before the Hashira training arc. Instead of training closely under one Hashira, he does more solo training because he needs to balance everything: his quirk, his breathing, and his stamina. He focuses more on core training than sword training, but his sword skill still ends up almost where it is in the original timeline. Then the Ubuyashiki family head dies. Muzan traps everyone inside the Infinity Castle, and we get Giyu and Tanjiro versus Akaza. In this fight, Tanjiro can actually keep up for a while using his ice and fire. At one point, he manages to keep Akaza locked in place by constantly burning him while his body is regenerating. Akaza has the fastest regeneration in the entire series, even faster than Kokushibo or Doma, because of how aggressive and close range his fighting style is. But once Tanjiro starts to weaken and can't keep the flames up, Akaza opens him up and nearly punches straight through him. Giyu steps in to save Tanjiro, and in that moment, Tanjiro unlocks his selfless state through memories of his father. With that, they finish off Akaza. Because Akaza is defeated much earlier, Tanjiro moves deeper into the Infinity Castle. He gets separated from Giyu due to Nakime's ability and ends up running into Upper Moon 2, Doma. By this point, Doma has already killed Shinobu, which adds more emotional weight to Kanao's story. But Doma's techniques are ice-based, which gives Tanjiro a massive advantage. Tanjiro burns through Doma's techniques, closes the distance, and kills him much faster. Because of that, Kanao doesn't have to destroy her eyesight, and Inosuke comes out of the fight in much better condition. Meanwhile, Giyu reaches the Upper Moon 1 fight. Muichiro and Genya still die, but Giyu helps Gyomei and Sanemi defeat Kokushibo. Kokushibo realizes the truth about his brother and dies the same way. The side battles play out the same. Zenitsu versus Kaigaku. Zenitsu wins with the 7th form Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro versus Nakime. Yushiro takes control of her Muzan notices, kills Nakime, and Yushiro pulls everyone out of the Infinity Castle. Because Tanjiro isn't heavily injured this time, he's able to go straight to the front lines for the final battle. So when Tanjiro arrives at the final battle, the Hashira are already fighting Muzan. In this timeline, Muzan usually releases a huge blast that pushes the Hashira back, and that's what originally killed Mitsuri and caused a lot of them to lose limbs. But this time, since Tanjiro is there, he fires off a massive ice wall to block that blast. That alone saves a lot of lives, including Mitsuri. After that, as Muzan starts slowing down, Tanjiro uses Flash Fire Fist to keep burning him non-stop and locking him in place. Muzan's regeneration keeps trying to keep up, but Tanjiro's fire output is too much. The more Muzan regenerates, the more Tanjiro burns him, and it slowly drains him all the way to sunrise. By the time the sun comes up, Muzan is already completely burned out, and the sunlight finishes him off. Because of that, Tanjiro never turns into the Demon King, and a lot more people are in much better condition. So in this timeline, Obanai and Mitsuri survive and get together. Giyu does not lose an arm. Gyomei doesn't lose any limbs, but he still dies because of the Demon Slayer mark. Since he's past 25, Muichiro, Shinobu, and Genya still still die in the Infinity Castle. Giyu and Sanemi both survive, and that's how this timeline ends. I hope you guys liked this video. What if Tanjiro learned sun breathing earlier? So this is the idea I basically wanted to do. What if Tanjiro's family already knew about sun breathing, practiced it, and Tanjiro learned it way earlier before the events of the original Demon Slayer story? Like I said in my What if Yoriichi's wife survived the demon attack video, Yoriichi's family would have kept demon slaying knowledge alive, but still not officially joined the Demon Slayer course. I think Tanjiro's family would be the same way in this timeline. They would have Nichiren blades, they would practice their sun breathing technique, and Tanjiro's dad would teach him everything he knows, how demons roam at night, how to breathe properly, and how to fight. They wouldn't know the 13th form, because only Yoriichi had that, but they would know the rest of the sun breathing forms. So when Tanjiro's family gets killed, it still happens the same way. His father is dead and can't protect them from Muzan. Tanjiro still goes to sell charcoal, because the family has to make a living, and none of the younger kids know sun breathing yet. Only Tanjiro has practiced it a little. Tanjiro is more knowledgeable about demons and sun breathing basics, but not the 13th form, since Yoriichi never passed it down. He comes back, finds his family dead, rescues Nezuko, and tries to find help. He meets Giyu, but this fight goes totally differently now. Tanjiro can fight way longer, and he has way more combat experience because he learned directly from his dad. He already knows almost all the normal sun breathing forms, so he's way more dangerous than in the original. When they start fighting, Giyu instantly notices Tanjiro is using a breathing technique, he just doesn't know which one. He asks Tanjiro if he's in the Demon Slayer Corps already. Tanjiro explains he's not, but he learned his breathing style from his father. After talking, Giyu realizes Tanjiro already has the skill he needs, so instead of sending him to Urokodaki for a full training arc, he tells Tanjiro to go straight to final selection. Urokodaki still takes Nezuko and puts the Never Harm Humans spell on her, but Tanjiro skips the long training arc completely and heads right into final selection. Now he fights in final selection, and everything goes way smoother. Since he already knows basically everything about sun breathing, he does super good. He's been practicing, and every demon that came near his village, he's been killing and training against for years after his dad died, so he performs really well in final selection. He also gets way more used to holding a blade, since he's already practiced with Nichiren-style swords before. After final selection, he comes back, gets Nezuko, and begins his journey. He defeats the Swamp Demon, he defeats the Drum Demon, he meets Inosuke and Zenitsu, and does everything the same as the original timeline. Then we get to Rui's Mountain. Everything basically happens the same, but the Mother Demon is defeated much easier since Tanjiro has sun breathing and doesn't need water breathing at all. This actually has a big impact on the story, because he never learned water breathing in this timeline. He defeats the Father Demon too, because he's way stronger here. When Rui comes out, Nezuko's Blood Demon art is actually way stronger in this timeline, because she knows a lot more about sun breathing. In the original timeline, she barely knew it, but here she grew up watching Tanjiro and their father practice it, so her flames would be way more powerful. Tanjiro's sun breathing is also fully developed. He doesn't have to convert water breathing into sun breathing. He automatically uses real sun breathing and actually cuts Rui down himself. He kills a lower moon instead of Giyu showing up to finish the job. People might think Tanjiro would become a Hashira after killing a lower moon, but he's probably not strong enough yet, and he's too nice to take the position. The Hashira wouldn't allow it yet anyway. Now we get the Hashira meeting. Why is he traveling with a demon? Giyu and Urokodaki vouch for him. Sanemi still does his thing with stabbing Nezuko because Tanjiro is tied up and can't really defend her. Everything else happens the same. Now realistically, Tanjiro would not go with Rengoku because he already knows sun breathing. He doesn't need to ask Rengoku anything about his breathing style. So Rengoku goes by himself, defeats lower 1 Enmu, and gets killed by upper moon 3 Akaza. Sadly, the same outcome. Tanjiro goes on way more missions and gets even stronger because he already defeated a lower moon way earlier. He doesn't have to be sad about Rengoku because he barely knew him in this timeline. He trains all the way up until the Entertainment District arc, where Zenitsu and Inosuke go with Tengen. Tanjiro takes the place of the girls, and they dress up as girls to find Upper Moon 6, Daki. Now, once they find them, Tanjiro is fighting Daki, and Tengen, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tengen's wives are fighting the other half of Daki, which is the Belt Demon. This time, when Tanjiro goes into that red eye blood rage state when he thinks he's not special, I think since he's way stronger in this timeline and knows more sun breathing, he would actually cut down Daki. When he does that, Gyutaro pops out. Tanjiro is out of breath, so Nezuko still has to come and save him from Gyutaro at first. But then Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tengen show up to help, while Tanjiro recovers and helps everyone else. Now, in the original timeline, when one of Tengen's wives got captured by Gyutaro, Tanjiro used a mix of water breathing and sun breathing. In this timeline, he can't do that since he never learned water breathing, but his extra strength makes up for it, so everything still happens basically the same. Tanjiro stays with Tengen's fight the entire time because he's way stronger now. He can see more of Gyutaro's movements, and he can kind of keep up way better than in the original timeline. everything still happens with Zenitsu and Inosuke. Zenitsu gets trapped under rubble, and Inosuke is half dead like usual. Still don't know how he survived that shit. Bro pulled some Attack on Titan move and shifted his organs or something. But anyway, if you guys don't like and subscribe, you're gonna end up like him, somehow surviving the impossible. Zenitsu and Inosuke kill Daki, and Tanjiro and Tengen kill Gyutaro. This time, Tengen does not lose an arm, because Tanjiro stayed with him the whole time. They finally kill him, but Tanjiro still gets a sickle through his mouth because he can't avoid that part. After that, Nezuko heals all of them, and now Tanjiro doesn't avoid his coma. He still has that 3-month coma, and he still needs his sword repaired. So now we start the Swordsmith Village arc. If you guys want to know what video I'm doing next, or if you want me to pick out a good idea for my next video, make sure you click the Discord link down below and join my Discord. That's where I'll be talking to you guys the most about my videos from now on. Now, I'm going to skip most of the dialogue. He meets Mitsuri, he meets Muichiro, he meets Genya, and okay, my favorite scene is the Mitsuri hot spring scene. Nah, I'm joking. Do not take that seriously. But anyway, he still trains with the battle doll, and I'm skipping straight to the part where Muichiro clamps Tanjiro's nose and Upper Moon 4 appears. Tanjiro is way stronger now with sun breathing. He's almost Hashira level. Even with that, Muichiro still gets blasted away by the wind emotion demon because neither he nor Tanjiro knew that attack was coming. This time, Tanjiro can take on all 4 emotion clones by himself. When everything collapses, Nezuko is obviously not under the rubble because Tanjiro is way stronger now and can keep up with the fight. He wouldn't get badly hurt by the Soundjoy clone either. He fights all the clones. Then, when Genya and Nezuko can't kill the main body, they switch targets, and the clones all merge into the big emotion clone like the original. Muichiro, on the other hand, is doing the same thing as the original timeline, unlocking his Demon Slayer mark, killing Gyoko, and getting his new sword. Mitsuri, the love Hashira, comes back to the village, saves the village chief, and helps Tanjiro with the main emotion clone. Basically, everything happens the same in this part. Tanjiro still has to let Nezuko burn in the sunlight for the moment. Muichiro throws the sword, Tanjiro grabs it, and he kills Upper Moon 4. And that's the Swordsmith Village arc. Now we move on to the Hashira training arc, with Nezuko already immune to sunlight. So let's get right into the Hashira training arc. So the only thing that really changes is Tanjiro trains way earlier instead of getting hurt, because he's not that injured in this timeline. He only has minor injuries, so he gets right into the Hashira training arc. With that, the only major difference I see is Tengen being way more efficient at training people, because he still has both of his arms. Other than that, everything basically stays the same for the Hashira training arc. Now, when Ubuyashiki gets killed by Muzan's big blast, everybody gets thrown into the Infinity Castle, and the matchups are still the same. So let's go over Giyu and Tanjiro versus Akaza first. Tanjiro knows sun breathing way more, and he already has a fresh memory of the selfless state in his mind, because that's the main thing his dad taught him when teaching sun breathing. Go check out my video where his dad becomes a demon slayer. Because of that, Tanjiro awakens his selfless state way easier, and Giyu doesn't get as hurt. They kill off Akaza, and Akaza ends up killing himself after remembering his wife. Rest in peace. Upper Moon 2 goes exactly the same. Shinobu dies, and Kanao and Inosuke finish off Doma. Upper Moon 1 is a little different. Tanjiro would arrive earlier since Akaza was defeated way faster than in the original timeline, so this time it's Tanjiro, Sanemi, and Gyome versus Kokushibo. He still can't save Muichiro or Genya, but he can help Sanemi and Gyome finish Kokushibo. Kokushibo realizes his brother was better than him, remembers his past, and dies the same way. Now for the side battles. Kaigaku versus Zenitsu. Zenitsu wins with the 7th form. Yushiro, Obanai, and Mitsuri versus Nakime, the Biwa woman. Yushiro takes control of her with Obanai and Mitsuri's help. When Muzan notices that, he kills Nakime, and Yushiro gets everybody out of the Infinity Castle for the Sundown Countdown arc. Now, with Tanjiro barely getting hurt this whole time, he'll be right on the front lines in the Muzan fight. Instead of Mitsuri and Obanai taking that much damage, Tanjiro will be in their place. Tanjiro is way stronger now, honestly more than a little bit Hashira level. Plus, he learns the 13th form from his ancestors' memories, with Yoriichi teaching him inside those memories. So, Tanjiro helps kill Muzan when he gets slowed down by the poison, and all the Hashira help drag Muzan out into the sunlight. Muzan still gets killed. Tanjiro still becomes the Demon King for a moment, and Kanao snaps him out of it with the human serum. The people that survive are Obanai and Mitsuri, and they get together. Sanemi survives, Giyu survives, and he doesn't lose an arm this time. Gyome doesn't survive, because with the Demon Slayer mark, you die after 25, and he's already past 25. Shinobu and Genya still die in the Infinity Castle, and that's basically everyone who survives in this timeline. Hope you guys really like this video. What if Tanjiro had the solo leveling power system? You guys requested this from my post, so make sure to check out my post if you want to pick what videos I do next. So let's get right into this. Now I know Tanjiro, so what we're going to do here is only have the system for Tanjiro. In solo leveling, Jinwoo got the system by basically dying dying, and the system asked him if he wanted to survive, and then revived him with that weird statue demon thing. Demon Slayer doesn't have that exact statue demon, but let's just say this time Tanjiro gets it through like God or something. So let's say when Tanjiro was about to go sell coal, he doesn't. Maybe he gets hurt, or he's really sick, and Muzan shows up, injects a bunch of blood, and kills most of the Kamado family. Tanjiro is on the brink of death, and the system box pops up. Do you want to live? And obviously, he hits yes, because he wants to save Nezuko. Then he wakes up in his house, and he's perfectly fine. His limbs are okay, everything looks normal, and he saved his sister. Then Giyu meets him, and fights him like normal, and then sends him to Urokodaki's place to learn water breathing. So at Urokodaki's place, Tanjiro starts asking questions about why he can see some weird screen. Just like how Jinwoo was confused at the start, Tanjiro is messing with the screens. He's thinking like, I don't need to do these quests, because he's already doing training anyway with the sword. But the system has its own expectations. His daily quests are 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, 10-kilometer run, which is 6.2 miles. Tanjiro might be able to do half of that because his focus is sword training. Maybe he completes the run because he runs up and down the mountain training. But 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, he's probably not matching the exact numbers yet, and he probably thinks nothing of it until he gets teleported into that penalty zone. This is that creepy place with those snake bug-looking monsters chasing him. In the Demon Slayer verse, Demon Slayers are already crazy fast, so I think he could outrun them, but it would drain him, and he randomly disappears from Urokodaki's place. So Tanjiro tries to keep that secret, saying he was using the bathroom or something. Now he's scared to skip the quests again. So after that, Tanjiro starts doing both his water breathing training and the daily quests. He now actually does 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and the 6.2 mile run every day. So he's leveling up while doing that training. But Tanjiro doesn't truly level up heavy until final selection, because in solo leveling, Jinwoo leveled up the most by killing tons of goblins in that dungeon, and in Demon Slayer Final Selection, Tanjiro kills a bunch of demons, and his big boss is the Hand Demon. That would basically act like his dungeon boss fight, and that is where Tanjiro would get most of his first big level ups in this version. So, in Final Selection, he starts cutting down a bunch of demons, and he realizes he gets XP and extra potions and stuff. He really doesn't know what most of them do at first unless he reads them, and he doesn't get anything really crazy or new yet. He wants to keep his sword, because all the system gives him is different types of weapons, and they are low-level weapons too. He doesn't know if those are real Nichiren blades or not, so he doesn't take any, but he does use the potions to heal up. So instead of just surviving Final Selection, he is actually hunting down every single demon to get more XP. Then he meets the Hand Demon, and he cuts him down way faster than in the original timeline, since he is all healthy from the potions, and he is constantly leveling up, getting even stronger. And by the end of Final Selection, he's level 15, just like solo leveling when Jinwoo finished his first dungeon. So level 15, Tanjiro goes around killing demons and getting more XP, testing out new weapons like daggers and stuff just like Jinwoo did, but he mainly sticks with the normal katana. I don't think he would dual wield or use daggers, but maybe later he gets an upgraded katana. Tanjiro is going around killing demons. He kills the swamp demon, he kills the drum demon, and most of the demons he normally fights in the story. He eventually meets Inosuke and Zenitsu along the way. He's about level 35 by the time they reach Rui's mountain. Zenitsu still stays back because he's scared, and Tanjiro and Inosuke run up the hill, killing a bunch of demons, helping the other demon slayers out. He's leveling up more and more. He kills the mother demon, that levels him up. He kills the dad demon, that levels him up to around level 44 or 45. Then he faces Rui with Nezuko getting hurt and all that. Now, he's way stronger than in the original timeline, and he has health potions, so he can constantly keep going. And when his sword gets broken by Rui, he pulls out another Nichiren blade from his inventory just in case, and finishes Rui off. And then he unlocks what I think is the most broken ability. I'm super excited about this part. He now unlocks Shadow Extraction. After he defeats Rui, he reads the screen, and just like Jinwoo did to the knight in Solo Leveling Season 1, he says, "Arise." He says it again, because Rui was weaker than that knight. Rui finally rises on the second "Arise." Now he can store shadows, and he unlocks the whole Shadow Extraction technique. Giyu and Shinobu show up. Shinobu handles that other demon, while Giyu sees what's going on. Then the Hashira meeting begins. They ask why he's traveling with a demon again. The same thing with Sanemi happens, but Tanjiro fights back even more now since he's leveled up and way stronger than the original timeline, and now he knows sun breathing just a little bit. They all accept Nezuko because of Giyu, and Urokodaki vouching for her, and now the Mugan train begins. After healing up, Tanjiro wants to know more about sun breathing, so he thinks Rengoku might know something about it, so he boards the Mugan train. They all fall asleep like normal. He already told Zenitsu and Inosuke about his abilities, so they know he can still use shadows. He takes down Lower Moon One with Inosuke, while Rengoku, Nezuko, and Zenitsu are protecting the train. Tanjiro then uses a rise on Lower Moon One and it works, but he only rises his normal demon body, not the whole train. Then Upper Moon 3 shows up. When Akaza shows up, Tanjiro doesn't get stabbed this time because he can just heal with his potions. So he jumps into the fight with Rengoku instantly since he's basically healed already. And plus, Rengoku heals up too from Tanjiro helping him. Tanjiro is probably around level 50 at this point, so he's obviously super strong, way stronger than the original timeline version, so he actually gives Rengoku real backup this time. And on top of that, he throws out Rui and Enmu to help them in this fight too. So now Akaza is dealing with Rui's pressure, Enmu's dream traps, plus 2 Hashira level fighters. This fight is way harder for him. Akaza starts getting pushed back all the way until the sun is about to rise. But Tanjiro still doesn't have the selfless state yet. So Akaza can just sense his battle intent and predict his swings, and he makes sure no one is behind him. So Akaza still escapes, but Tanjiro gets Enmu as a new Shadow Soldier. Now this is a brand new ability in the Demon Slayer cores. When Rengoku, Tanjiro, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Nezuko get back to headquarters, everyone is weirded out by it, and they start doing research on this ability. Also, Sanemi and Tanjiro probably get way better in this timeline, because Sanemi maybe actually apologizes to Tanjiro about his sister and everything, and Tanjiro uses his shadows to train, because now he has basically 2 lower moons to spar against, so he can get to Hashira level way faster. So he's probably like level 55 by the time the Entertainment District arc starts. I'm going to skip most of the dialogue. They dress up as women, they look for Upper Moon 6 Daki, and they finally locate her. Now everything begins when Tanjiro versus Daki starts. His eyes go red again, and he goes crazy fast, while Tengen, Inosuke, and Zenitsu are fighting the belt half of Daki. And before this arc started, Tanjiro already went on some missions, so he actually has like 2 or 3 extra demons he can throw out now. But Rui and Enmu are still his main heavy hitters. So when the fight begins, Tanjiro rises some demons to distract Daki. He uses Rui's threads to counter her belts. Thread versus belt. And it actually works. This forces Daki to go full power way sooner. Tanjiro keeps Enmu by him, while Rui fights with 3 other demons to hold Daki back. Daki still has the upper hand since she's an Upper Moon, but because Rui has 3 extra demons backing him, they're actually keeping up. So Tanjiro finally finds an opening and cuts off Daki's head from behind with sun breathing, which triggers Gyutaro to pop out way earlier than the original timeline. Now both siblings are active at the same time, so Tanjiro uses Enmu's dream traps to stall Gyutaro, while Rui and the other demons stall Daki. Nezuko never gets out of her box in this version, because Tanjiro already had the situation handled. When Tengen arrives, instead of the whole Nezuko moment, he's shocked at this new shadow ability Tanjiro has. Then with Tengen, Inosuke, Zenitsu, plus Rui, Enmu, and the shadows, they basically just jump them. They defeat Gyutaro and Daki way easier in this timeline. Tanjiro then uses a rise on both of them. He gets Daki and Gyutaro as shadows. That is an insane upgrade, because those are Upper Moons. Nezuko heals everyone from the poison, and since Tengen never loses his arm in this timeline, he probably doesn't retire. Tanjiro doesn't go into a coma either, since he barely got damaged. So instead of 3 months in a hospital bed, he spends 3 months doing missions and training. He gets like 20 more demons added to his shadow army. Now we go to the Swordsmith Village arc. Tanjiro goes because he wants more Nichiren blades to store in his inventory. I'm skipping dialogue. He meets Mitsuri, Muichiro, and Genya. When Muichiro clamps his nose, Tanjiro secretly puts a shadow inside Muichiro, just like how Jinwoo did with S ranks during the Ant arc. At this point, Tanjiro is stronger than every Hashira because he uses sun breathing and shadows. Upper Moon 4 shows up and splits into the emotion clones. Muichiro still gets blasted away, so Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya fight all the clones. Tanjiro summons Rui, Enmu, and then Daki and Gyutaro, because those are his strongest shadows now. Daki distracts clones with her belts, and Gyutaro supports with poison attacks, while Rui and the other demons block hits. While all the shadows are fighting clones, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya rush the main body much earlier, so the emotions combine sooner into the big emotion clone. Mitsuri comes back to the village fight, but because Tanjiro's shadows are helping, Mitsuri barely gets hurt, so she never even has to unlock her Demon Slayer mark. Muichiro meanwhile still fights Upper Moon 5 and wins the same way. He unlocks his mark, kills Gyoko, grabs the new Nichirin blade, and throws it to Tanjiro. Tanjiro catches the blade, rushes back, and kills Upper Moon 4 easy. Nezuko still becomes immune to sunlight. Tanjiro arises Upper Moon 4, which now gives him all 4 emotion clones as shadows. Upper Moon 5's body is gone, so he cannot arise him. Now Muzan is pissed, because not only does Nezuko survive the sun, now Tanjiro is stealing his Upper Moons. But now we move into the Hashira training arc. And so Tanjiro obviously has his Demon Slayer mark, so after the Swordsmith village he doesn't need healed up, because he was basically protected the whole time, and he also has health potions he can give everybody. But anyway, they still try to regulate the Demon Slayer marks, and Mitsuri does not unlock the Demon Slayer mark, so only Muichiro and Tanjiro have their marks in this timeline. So the Hashira training arc basically goes the same, but this time, Tanjiro has shadow demons, and I think he would give the Hashira Upper Moon 6, Upper Moon 4, all the lower moons, and even small demons he has stored, so the whole Demon Slayer Corps can train with actual Upper Moon demons. So they are way more experienced and way more stronger in this timeline because of Tanjiro's shadow demons. So when Tanjiro is training with all the Hashira, he also puts some lower moon demons inside the Hashira just in case, so he can teleport to them. Just like Jinwoo, he has the teleport ability where he can switch places with his shadows at any time. Everything still happens the same after that. The Ubuyashiki family leader dies when Muzan blows him up, and everything from that point happens exactly the same. Tamayo injects the poison into Muzan, and then everyone gets dropped into the Infinity Castle. But things are different now. So now let's go over the matchups. Tanjiro versus Upper Moon, 3 Akaza, Tanjiro solo, Jiyu, Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke together, Genya, Muichiro, Sanemi, and Gyome. Same as original side battles like Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, Nakime versus Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro. Now let's go over Tanjiro's fight versus Akaza first. Tanjiro brings out Daki and Gyutaro to hold off Upper Moon 3. Their regeneration and respawn is insane because Tanjiro can just re-summon them. Tanjiro finally unlocks his selfless state and transparent world, and that gives him enough time to cut off Akaza's head and defeat Akaza like the original timeline. So Tanjiro uses the transparent world and cuts off Akaza's head. So that's how Akaza versus Tanjiro goes. And after that, Tanjiro looks through his shadows to check on the other fights. He pops shadows out to see Shinobu and Gyu's fight, and their fight is doing pretty okay. Shinobu is getting a little hurt, but since basically 3 Hashira level fighters are there, Kanao and Inosuke together basically count as 1 Hashira, and Gyu and Shinobu are 2 Hashira. And Shinobu already said that you need about 3 Hashira to even beat Doma. Tanjiro sees they are doing good enough. He sends shadows to help them a little bit, just to make sure none of them die. But on the other hand, the Upper Moon 1 fight is going really bad. Muichiro is pinned against a pole with a sword in his chest, and Genya is about to die, while Sanemi and Gyome are fighting Kokushibo. Tanjiro teleports there, using his shadow switching ability. He pulls Muichiro down and tells him to rest, gives him a full high-level potion to heal everything, then gives Genya another potion to save him too. Then Tanjiro jumps into the Upper Moon 1 fight along with Gyome and Sanemi. Oh yeah, I forgot. Tanjiro also arises Akaza after the fight, so now Akaza is fighting for him. And Tanjiro already arised Upper Moon 4 with all the emotion clones earlier. So now he brings all of them, Akaza, Upper Moon 4 clones, Gyutaro, and Daki, and they all help overwhelm Kokushibo. They cut off his head, and Kokushibo dies with his flashback like normal. Then Tanjiro teleports to the Doma fight. Shinobu is almost dead. She's totally spent, but Tanjiro shows up and heals her up with his potions. With Tanjiro plus Akaza, plus Upper Moon 4 plus Gyutaro plus Daki, they jump Doma and make sure he is 100% dead. Everything else plays out the same. Tanjiro knows Zenitsu wanted to fight Kaigaku alone, so he lets Zenitsu fight him alone, and Zenitsu kills Kaigaku with 7th form. And Nakime versus Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro also happens basically the same. Now Muzan knows he is getting backed into a corner. Tanjiro literally just arised Doma and Upper Moon 1 Kokushibo, so Muzan is in trouble. But Muzan's arrogance still shows. He thinks none of them can touch him anyway, so he kills Nakimi, the Biwa woman, because she was being controlled by Yushiro. And then Yushiro uses his control to flick the castle apart and get all the demon slayers out of the Infinity Castle, which leads into the Sunrise Countdown arc. So Tanjiro, instead of being down and out, he just regens instantly, or he just uses one of his potions. And this final fight is going to be crazy, because when Muzan pulls up and all the Hashira rush him like in the original, Tanjiro stops them. Tanjiro puts Akaza, Doma, and Upper Moon 1 Kokushibo directly against Muzan, while he uses Enmu, Rui, Upper Moon 4, with all the emotion clones, plus Daki and Gyutaro, to protect the Hashira and make sure the Hashira barely even have to fight. Tanjiro wants to make sure none of the Hashira die in this version, so while Muzan is slowing down because of Tamayo's poison, Upper Moon 1, Doma, and Akaza basically jump Muzan and drag him towards sunrise, and that makes Muzan die way faster. Tanjiro never becomes Demon King. Now for after the battle. I think Tanjiro would disband all the shadow demons he has, because the mission is done. They can move on to hell, or heaven, or wherever they go. The war is over. Gyomei doesn't have the Demon Slayer mark, so he doesn't die. Only Muichiro and Tanjiro had marks. And I think Tanjiro would use the system to heal the Demon Slayer mark like a stat curse, and give Muichiro a potion to cure it too. So the future is way happier. Kanao and Tanjiro get together, get married, and have kids. Shinobu and Giyu get together, so Shinobu's bloodline doesn't die off. Muichiro's bloodline lives on too. Gyomei lives a long, peaceful life. Sanemi lives. Mitsuri and Obanai also get a happy ending and get married. Most of the Hashira get a good life in this version, and this took me a long time to make. So if you guys want early access to my videos, my membership is down below, only if you guys want it. Click on this video right here to see more of my content.